Hi, Sean. Adam Benini. I know that obviously there are a lot of reasons and factors behind every loss, but we've heard you say repeatedly that winning the line of scrimmage is so critical to the outcome of a football game. Is it too simplistic to say that not being able to handle things in terms of your offensive line and their defensive front, is it too simplistic to say that that's the primary reason things went the way they did yesterday?
Yeah, probably so. I understand where you're coming from on that, Adam, and going back to your point. Listen, it's hard to do anything without line play, right? And everything goes through the line on both sides of the ball. So, in particular on the offensive side of the ball. So, I would just say it's never just one position. As you're saying, hey, what was the issue? It's more than that. It's more than one player. We have to do a better job overall offensively of putting our players in position. The players have to execute.
You had said on the postgame yesterday, I believe the quote was, you needed to figure some things out. I know you've just watched the film. How far along are you down that path as you look toward the Jets?
Yeah, I feel like we've had good conversations this morning. Those conversations will continue. I'm not done yet, to be honest with you. So I'm going to finish here and go back upstairs and go back to work in that area.
Thanks, Sean.
Sure. We good? Who's next here?
You can go ahead.
I can't. Can you hear me, Coach?
I got you.
Coach, this is Pat Freeman from The Beat 105.5 The Beat. Yesterday, I wanted to ask you about the health of your team coming out of that game. And also, after looking at only being able to run the ball 9 times, how important is it for a team to be able to run the ball consistently?
Yeah, so the first one with the with the health of the team, we have some guys we hope to get back this week, and we've got some guys that were a little banged up in the game. So we'll just see how it goes. If you have questions specifically, happy to answer that. As far as running the football, you've got to stay the threat at least of being a 2-dimensional team. And I think that we've experienced that earlier in the season. We experienced it yesterday again, and so that's not a healthy place to be.
All right, thank you, Coach.
Sure.
Hey, Sean, John Warrow. Along the same lines, I guess I was going to ask just what is the level of concern about an unbalanced offense that seems to be too quarterback centric at this point, and how much do you think it's placing too much pressure on Josh to have to be perfect and to press?
Yeah, and listen, I respectfully, I don't really want to get into too much because of strategy going forward, John, on this, or anyone else who has a similar question. Certainly understand where you're coming from, and I would say, yes, to put all of that on one player is hard. Josh is a good player. As he said after the game, we know he can do some things where he would want some plays back as well, just in terms of taking care of the football. So I would just say collectively, as a football team, and collectively in this case, as an offense, we have to do a better job fundamentally, do a better job at the point of attack, do a better job execution-wise. So there's a lot we need to improve on there.
I don't know if I've ever seen Josh so down after a regular season loss. I mean, I know they all affect him, and so did the playoff losses. But what did you take out of what Josh had to say, and just the hoarse voice Josh that seemed emotionally down after yesterday?
Well, number one, he cares. That shows that he cares, and I think that says a lot about who he is and how much he puts into this. He has a lot of passion for what he does and what he expects from himself. So I think that's, again, part of what makes him so good. That said, I think the other piece is acknowledging that he didn't play up to his standards, up to our standards, and the standard that he holds himself to. And that we need him to play at every week, and that's real. But that's also that awareness, that humility is the first step in terms of improving it also.
And last thing, how sobering was that loss?
Yeah, a loss is never easy. We have to learn from it. It's important that we handle it the right way. And there's a lot of things we could have done differently in that game. And I think you'll learn a lot from those situations if handled the right way. And that's what that's the only piece of that we can control at this point.
Thank you.
Sure.
Hey, Sean, a couple of Jags players mentioned that the energy level seemed down and it motivated them during the game yesterday. Going back and looking at the tape, having these conversations, what actually was wrong there in terms of why the energy level maybe wasn't there? I think you mentioned it in the post game press conference, but after 24 hours, what was going on there?
Yeah, I think it comes from a few different areas. Energy does typically. It's what you bring into the game, and then throughout the game, how the game ebbs and flows, and who can sustain their energy and through the ebbs and flows of the game. And I didn't think overall we did a good enough job of that. I think we were searching for things at points, and guys were searching to make plays, and the plays weren't coming like they normally come. And give the Jags credit. They can say what they want, obviously, and give them the credit. They beat us. So going forward, it's something that we have to generate, right? And we have to know who are the energy people are that generate that on our football team.
Thanks, Sean.
Sure.
Coach Mookie Harkins, 1-4 Sports 1080. How's it going?
Good, Mookie. How are you?
I'm good, Coach. 12 penalties, 3 turnovers. It's hard to beat a team against anybody, with those numbers. After watching film, what disappointed you the most yesterday?
Well, start with the turnovers. As you said, the ball is a great equalizer. Fundamentals or lack of fundamentals are also a great equalizer. So those two things in particular, not executing the way we needed to execute in order to put the game plan, in order to execute the game plan like we had planned. There's a lot of things, right? We got to put the players in position to be successful, which falls on me. And we got to do a better job of that. So, we've got a long list of things that we have to improve on fast.
Absolutely, Coach. So how do you refine your team's level of play at this point halfway through the season?
How would I define it, you asked? So what you said? Refine it? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Well, that's what this morning was for. Number one, you have truthful conversations. You identify what wasn't up to our standard, and then you address them in a direct, truthful manner. And that's the best way I know how to do it. That's how I've done it in the past. And, then you move forward as a football team and start looking ahead of the Jets.
Absolutely, Coach. Good luck this week.
Thank you.
Yes. Good afternoon, Coach. George Radney, Challenger Community News.
Hi, George.
Two questions. One, you've mentioned about the energy, and I know once you get pancaked, some of your offensive linemen getting pancaked, seems like their energy should jump right up after getting drilled into like that type of plays happening. Seems like energy shouldn't be a problem once you could come out slow, but once you get hit in the mouth, as they say, don't you think that energy level should rise?
It should be there before that, quite honestly, George, right? It should be there before that. I mean, this is an emotional game. It's a physical game, and those two pieces will always be there. And so, schemes are schemes, but at the end of the day, energy and passion and intensity, those are some of the character traits of good football teams. And so we've been that before, and I expect we'll be that going forward.
All right. And one last question. Do you think of I know last season seemed like you used the extra lineman a lot. I haven't really seen that much use this season where they have to notify that they're in as a receiver blocker type setup, but really you're using them as an extra blocker per se. Is that something that for some reason just hasn't been used this season much?
We've had him in some, George, this year. To your question, he's been in there at times. I think we may have had him once or twice in there yesterday, but he's been in there at times throughout this year also.
All right, thank you, Coach. Good luck next week.
All right, thank you.
Hey, Sean, it's Thad. How you doing?
Good, Thad. How you doing?
Hey, good. Specific injury questions. Trey and Taryn coming out of that last game, and then also Spencer and Dawson updates.
Yeah, Spencer and Dawson, hopefully have them back on the practice field on Wednesday. Taryn and Zach are both in concussion protocol.
Trey White, I know, was down for a little while. Was I right about that, or anything up with him? I thought very end of the game. Yeah.
Yeah, he came back up. He was fine.
Okay. The question is, Cody Ford was a guy that, Brandon talked about as he thought is one of the top 5 offensive linemen on the team, opening week starter. Obviously things haven't gone, as he and probably you would have hoped. What's your best explanation for why he has struggled, since the first week of the season?
Well, I just think, you always look at fundamentals and technique. That's a big thing at that position in particular, Thad. And I thought yesterday there were plays where he used his technique well, and there was other plays where, his technique lagged a little bit. And when you do that at that position, you sit directly in front of the quarterback. That's something that gets exposed pretty fast. So, I thought he battled. I thought he played hard, but I'm sure I know there's plays that he wants back, and we need back, quite honestly.
You talk about exposing things pretty fast. You had a few situations with the O-line where it just seemed like a dam was breaking for a group of guys that is that experienced. I know the other team gets paid too, obviously, and they come up with schemes that are trying to, fool you and everything. How disappointing was it when you have a group that's been around, that's seen a lot of things, to have that kind of issues at times like you did yesterday with the pass protection?
Yeah, it wasn't good enough. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, they did some things that, quite honestly, we should have seen. Some of them, maybe not all of them, but we got to do a better job. That's the bottom line, and it's got to continue to improve as we go through the season for us to continue to improve as a football team.
Thanks, Sean. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Hey, Sean, we've seen you guys bounce back from so many, different types of losses and situations, during your tenure as the Bills head coach. But I'm curious, does it feel like this is a little different? And does the message at all change when it was a game like we saw yesterday compared to, maybe like a devastating last second play or something, some of the other things you guys have had to overcome?
Does the message change? Only slightly, probably, more than anything. I mean, the message is the message based on where we fell short, and that's why I'd say it would change. But my messaging overall, my core beliefs, I would say are pretty consistent, win or lose. And part of that is we all have to do our job. And this game, as I said earlier, is played in a physical way, and we need to be more physical. So that was part of my message today. And so I would say just a little bit of both probably is the best answer I could give.
And one quick other injury note. I know you mentioned Taryn and Zach Moss. Cole Beasley, I think he was kind of banged up at the end of the game. Is he good to go this week, expected to practice?
Yeah, I do expect him to practice. He made it through the game, and we'll see where he is this week. But at this point, I expect him to practice and play.
All right, thanks, Sean.
Hey, Sean, it's Jay. You and the guys have talked really all season long about it being a 1 week at a time type of a league. And if you don't approach it that way, that things like yesterday can happen. Do you feel like that messaging was maybe, forgotten or lost, or maybe just not driven home at all during the practice week last week, the way that it has been, throughout the year?
Yeah, I mean, Jay, when you go through what we've gone through in the last 24 hours, you go back and try and look at everything, and messaging being one of them. And it's one of those situations where you feel like that message was made clear. Maybe not just this week, but we continue to educate our players, young and old, and remind them on how this league works. That it is a week-to-week league. So, and records don't matter. I know for even you guys hear it quite a bit and probably get tired of me saying it. That said, you got to come out and improve every week, and play your best game every week. And that's the goal, is to improve each and every week and respect every opponent. So that's what we try and do. Obviously, we fell short yesterday.
And along the injury line question, Ed was maybe a little bit banged up. Ed Oliver is he? You expect he'll be okay and able to practice Wednesday?
I do, yes. Yeah.
Thanks, Sean.
Yeah, sure.
Hi, Sean. It's Nick. I knew you were talking about trying to get a little bit more physical play. And, at this time of the season, a lot of coaches, maybe want to back off guys, at practice, not use the pads. Do you maybe consider a change in your practice routine when you get into a situation like this? And would you consider maybe, doing something like along those lines, or are you going to just stay the course?
Yeah, Nick, well, I'll look at everything, even as early as this morning, started to look at some of that, talking to some people in-house about that, and just, again, trying to evaluate us, trying to make sure I meet the team where it is based on some of the injuries we do have, and then what I feel like we need best going forward. So it's always trying to find that balance to make sure we're putting ourselves in a position to play well.
And just one more with Spencer, he's coming back to practice, but if you're in a situation again where he can't play, would you consider, another situation there, another, alternative at right tackle where guys that maybe haven't played, get in, like Doyle or Bates?
Yeah, we look at everything, Nick, and just always try and make sure we got the right people up in terms of on the active for the day of the game, and then in the starting lineup. So at the end of the day, I want guys that are going to play hard and play physical. So whatever 5 it is, that's what I'm looking for.
Thank you.
Hey, Coach, I know you said that you can learn a lot from a game like this if you handle it the right way. And I think Josh said something similar in his press conference saying, we can turn a negative into the positive. What do you want to see from your coaching staff, from the players this week in terms of on the practice field, in classrooms, whether it be watching more film, whether it be spending more time on the practice field? How can you move forward and make something like this into a positive?
Yeah, that's a great question, Maddie. I believe that, you make the adjustments that need to be made. You have the conversations that need to be had in terms of the conversations, and you don't ignore some of those rocks that are in our shoe right now, right? And so you figure out what those things are and you address them directly, and you make adjustments for the betterment of the team.
And then just one quick follow-up from that. Do you think that your team is more capable of doing that the last couple of years because you have the veteran leadership that you have with this group now?
Yeah, I would say to some extent, but you also have to, you have to remain humble enough to do that also. And that takes making sure that there's no sense of entitlement, no sense of anything that is on the wrong side of the fence at this point, right? So you got to come in humble. I think that's a great start to making the appropriate corrections that we need to make.